All right. Hello, everyone. Today is November 12th, 2020, and this is the Cluster API Azure Office Hours. As always, please follow the CNCF Code of Conduct and be nice to everyone. If you have anything that you'd like to discuss, feel free to add it to the open discussion section of the agenda. And if you can, please add your name to the attendee list at the top of the document. If you don't have this document, I will paste the link in the chat. And if you don't have access to it, you can join the SIG cluster lifecycle mailing list to get edit access. The instructions are at the top. Okay, let's start with welcoming anyone who's new to this meeting. Is there anyone who hasn't been to this meeting before and wants to quickly introduce themselves? Just say hello and tell us like what brought you to CAPZ office hours. I don't see any hands or anyone unmuting, so I'm going to assume there isn't. If I already said add your name to the attendee list, and we'll do the milestone project board review at the end, I think. Yeah. So let's start with the other discussion topics maybe, and then we can come back to the milestone. David, you want to talk to us about ACI?
Absolutely. Thoughts been bouncing around my head. With the way that we build up infrastructure, we use virtual machines and we use virtual machine scale sets. Each one, both use virtual machines behind the scenes. So they spin up a virtual machine within Azure. It takes a little bit of time, and then it takes a little bit of time to tear those down too. Azure also offers a kind of abstraction for running containers called Azure Container Instances. And to deploy out a container there, it's very, very fast. It's like super fast. And it builds like by the second. And it's, I think it could offer us a really interesting opportunity to spin up clusters quickly, scale them quickly, do our infrastructure mutations in a faster way. And I was thinking it might be fun to spike on this to see if it's viable. So I think it actually becomes very similar to the Docker controller within CAPZ. So really, we're just running nodes, joining them up to the cluster, and yeah, it just basically becomes CAPZ, except running in container instances. And I mean, there's still going to be like some weirdness around, like we got to wire up networking and make sure everything works in an Azure-ish way for like load balancers and VNets and stuff like that. But I think it could work. So I was just curious what people thought about it. If this is something that would be interesting, or just get the idea out in the public. Anybody have any thoughts?
How does this differ from virtual kubelets?
That's a really great question. Okay, and every time that this has been brought up, just like in like one-off discussions, that's brought up too. So VK ends up spinning up an ACI instance, right? But you have to have VK somewhere, or like we don't have to introduce VK. Like it could just be at the controller level that we're doing this. I don't think we need VK, and I'm not sure what VK brings to us that would be greater than CAPZ doing it.
Interesting. I guess my understanding was that you have the control plane, which still runs on real VMs, and then you have your networking, and then you just have like virtual nodes, which are like some of your nodes, but all of them, not all of them. So you can also have real nodes side by side with virtual nodes. So it's not like if you use VKs, it's not really like a different provider. It's just like a type of node that's in your cluster.
I would question whether or not we should just run control plane as well. Like, could we run control plane nodes in ACI? And
I
is it?
haven't.
Yeah.
So I guess I see virtual queuelet is kind of responsible for running the pods, the workloads, whereas what you're kind of suggesting is running the nodes as like a node is like the ACI instance is a node, and then you run containers inside of those. Is that like Docker and Docker kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Cool. I do have a friend who, or a colleague that did this probably a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, where they got an entire Kubernetes cluster running fully in ACI, and I think you wrote a blog post on it. It might be a good starting point to even understand what the limitations are.
Yeah, I had a short conversation with a PM over there, and they had brought up that they had spun up clusters before with ACI. And yeah, if you could point out where that is, that post, would love to read through it. That would be super helpful.
Do you know what the pricing model is for ACI? Would you end up paying more for running your workloads, or would it be similar, comparable to having virtual machines?
I think it depends, right? So if you're running nodes like all the time, like if you're always running nodes, you probably want to mix. I think you would want a mix of like, here is my base set of my reserved instances. And then maybe above that, here's my spike. And when I have traffic spiking, I spike with ACI. And then I come back down to like my reserved set. Almost like autoscaler would be smart enough to spin up, hey, I need to respond quickly, and then replace with like more permanent, lower cost instances.
Makes sense.
I don't know. That starts to get really complicated, but it would be so cool. I'll link in some pricing details.
Yeah. Do you want to create an issue on the repo so that we have that idea somewhere, and then we can think about it?
Will do.
All right.
It seems to be worth like a spike or a POC or something.
Yep. Any other questions or comments about ACI?
Try to write the notes of the conversation, but David, take a look and fix whatever I missed, please.
Thank you so much, Nader.
Cool. All right, let's keep going. Hey, Janet, by the way, really good to see you here. We have another discussion on flaky tests. Let's do it. Later.
Well, there is the PR by Fabrizio in Cluster API that is about the KCP thing that we suspect might help our KCP flaky test. But I guess once we have that, they're supposed to do an RC, I think today or tomorrow, I can remember, and then we can get that. This PR just got merged yesterday. But I guess we can wait for the RC and try to test with that and see how that helps with the KCP upgrade test. I did a PR to test out the removal of the join retry of QVDM. It seems to be working fine, except the same flakiness that has been happening around. I think from most of the cases I've seen, it seems to be in the IPv6 test. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. I haven't had the chance to dig deeper into that. We had a quick discussion about it on Slack, but I didn't investigate it further yet.
Great. Yeah, and then there's also been some more flakiness I've noticed, not just on IPv6, but also the multiple control plane cluster on the PR tests since the new Kubernetes version PR merged. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, but
every time one of my PRs fails, it's the IPv6 one.
okay.
I think it might be a coincidence.
Maybe not. So I think there are a few different things going on here. So it would be really great if we can get a repro of IPv6 so we can see what's going on there, because I suspect that might be specific to IPv6 if it's a flake that's happening there. And then in terms of the one that merged, we might be able to pull it in already, or we can just wait for the RC. But I think we should really start testing CAPI master. So we can set up a new job that runs the CAPI end-to-end test with the latest commits in CAPI. How does that sound? Like as a periodic job?
You'd have to just build the images. I wasn't sure where to get the images from, so I didn't. I thought about doing it, and then I figured out where would I get the images from. So I said I'd wait for the RC. But if we have a way of doing that, then yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I guess we could do something where you like check out the repo and then you build the image from there, and then you check out CAPZ and use the image.
Yeah.
It would just be a little more complex of a job definition. But yeah, for now, short term, we should use the RC, but I'll try to look into adding the new job.
And I can investigate a little bit of the IPv6 flaky one that I've seen at least. I'll investigate that today and tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Does the metrics stuff, I haven't looked at the results of that. Does that help with like seeing where the flakiness is happening, or because that was one of the reasons we added that?
So the metrics would not, the tracing perhaps would. The thing is, I don't think we're deploying out the Jenkins sidecar when we're running the tests. So we very easily could deploy out that Jenkins sidecar, or not Jenkins, I'm sorry, Jaeger. The other J. So the Jaeger sidecar could definitely, in the Jaeger operator, could definitely be deployed out in our testing environment. We would then have to call out and get the traces or visualize the traces, right? Or we could put the traces like somewhere else, like have another cluster that's running that we're actually exporting traces to. That's kind of like a more permanent cluster. I don't know. We need to talk through that, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna start with trying to repro that locally so I can like do all that stuff from my own environment and then see how to do that. And then I haven't been able to repro that failure flakiness locally, but I'll work on that.
So if the only time the tracing components get deployed right now is through Tilt. But it's not hard to do it. If you look, there's just some telemetry components. And if you run customize on that directory, it'll produce all the components for the controller as well as the telemetry components. So you could just do a kube apply at that point, and all those components go out there.
Cool. Okay.
The other issue that we should really fix that could help us with investigating this is right now, if you're like, we're getting the workload cluster logs, but whenever one of these clusters fails to provision, it usually times out, and so it doesn't fetch the logs at the end. So we end up getting logs for all the successful clusters, but not the failed one, which is the most important one to get the logs from. So if we fix this, we could have logs in E2E runs in Prow for the failures.
So why does it not? Is it because like the collecting of the logs happen at the end, so it doesn't get to that, or?
I think so, yeah.
I'm
not. It's supposed to be run in after suite, so it should be running like no matter what. But I suspect because it's timing out, it's bailing out of the job completely. But I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll look at it.
All right. Anything else on testing?
So the retry one, the retry join one, I just keep like running the test a bunch of times. I don't seem to see failures related to that retry. It seems to be the same flakiness. So I think we should keep running it a few more times and keep it until we get the new CAPI one and test with that. But just, does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Before we move on to milestone planning, does anyone have any topics they want to bring up? Any questions? Any generic questions about CAPZ or the project or anything like that? Okay. So I'll start sharing the milestone. Can you see my GitHub? Yeah. All right, so we're technically past due for 0410, which we were hoping to release this week. Since we're still waiting for CAPI release, we're delayed on this one as well, which is okay. Out of these ones, which are, let me just start by creating the other milestone. So, oh, yeah, we should discuss. Are we doing 0411? Are we starting with alpha 4? What's, because we had said 0410 might be the last one, it might not be.
CAPI is doing 0312, right?
Potentially, not sure yet. As a, like, if any bug fixes come up. But all features are going into the main branch in 04 starting now.
But we can't pick up the V alpha 4 types yet, correct?
We could if we merge like CAPI
be,
main branch, but there's no release that has the alpha 4 types yet.
Yeah. Don't we want to like wait till we have an actual release with that so we can start using it? Because it might be changing and might be like hard to.
Yeah. I think we want to start using it a bit before the release so we can start testing it and like find out if there are any problems before it actually gets released. But like that will probably be more in January. So I think in the meantime, we shouldn't block ourselves from moving forward with features and releasing.
I think so. I think we should have a small 0411 one because there's like holidays and stuff anyway, and then make it the last one.
Okay, sounds good. So in terms of the due dates, we usually do once a month. Obviously 0410 was a bit longer and 0411 will probably be longer too. There's also Thanksgiving week in the US in 2 weeks. So if we say we release next week for 0410, and we try to do approximately 4 weeks from that, that would be December 17th, which I think is good given that's before the like Christmas week. So I think that gives us a bit of time, and then we can release before that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just go through these and see which ones we want to keep in here that we think we're going to get done by next week, which ones we want to move back to next, and which ones we want to move to 0411. Okay, enhancement proposal, cloud, resource reconciliation. David, what's the plan on that one?
Yeah, so it needs to get done.
Just time, right?
Yeah. It has continually been bumped down like the priority list. Like it's always like number 2 or number 3 and something else comes up. And then like, I think we put it in here with the hopes of getting it in with telemetry coming in ahead of it, and we prioritize that. And I think right now the top priority is to get machine pool version upgrade working, as opposed to like getting the enhancement. I don't feel bad about kicking the enhancement down a little further. I don't know. What do others feel like?
I think that's okay
agree.
too. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we already have done a lot of cleanup with like the cloud stuff, so it's in a much better state, so this can wait.
I think we just haven't had the urgency to do it so far because we don't have the implementation yet, because we're waiting to see what happens with ASO. And like, so for those who don't know, Azure Service Operator is like a project for basically Azure operators to reconcile like infrastructure resources, which is very interesting for us because it would kind of do what we were hoping to use here. But it's not to the point where it doesn't support all the resources that we want yet, that we need for a Kubernetes cluster. But I know they're working on that, and we had talked with the team who maintains it at their office hours, and they would want to like have us be early adopters potentially. And in that case, they would try to prioritize like the resources that CAPZ needs. And so I think like when we get to that point where we're like trying to spike on that, then we need to get the proposal done. But until then, it's kind of like you said, David, it's always going to be second priority. So we can keep it in the milestone and look at it and bump it down, or we can just move it to next for now. And if it comes up earlier than planned, that's fine.
I will vote for next.
Okay. All right, multi-tenancy.
So I think I did the last thing. We're waiting for updating the proposal before we can merge stuff. I don't know if we want to include this in 0410, considering it's like a really big thing that we would be merging in if we merge it in like the last few days. So I think it's done from my perspective. I just fixed the owner reference thing. And we just need Anish to take a look at it, make sure we're using it properly, and David to update the proposal. I wasn't able to do the end-to-end test after I had the end-to-end test working, kind of. The user on the CI said it can create an Azure identity because it doesn't have permission to do that. So I didn't know how to fix that. The CI user calling like the AZ thing. So that's one thing still. I don't know if we want to include that in release without an end-to-end test, but I don't know how to fix that. But I think from like a coding perspective, as far as I can tell, it's done for now. But I don't know how we want to deal with it.
what about cluster cuddle move? You had said there was maybe something that we needed to fix there for cluster cuddle move to work.
You said I just need to make sure the owner references are correct, and I made sure they are.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else.
Well, we should still test it. That was my
Yeah.
my guess, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, I asked about that because the original proposal had mentioned that we need a change in cluster cuddle move, but then we kind of completely changed our approach. So I don't know if that's still a thing or not. That's what I was trying to ask about. But I can test that. I haven't tested that.
So bump to 0411 or keep in here?
I would say bump unless you think it's super urgent to get it in 410, and then I can like focus on it and try to do, but I prefer to bump it.
Okay.
David, what do you think?
I think we can bump, particularly if you feel like we should. You're building it.
No, I think it's like done. I just don't think it's been tested enough.
Fair. So
it's pretty big.
On the topic of testing, we could just make another service principal so that the job doesn't actually have to create that service principal. And then we can use that one in our tests, similarly to how we've been using it in the controller so far. Like we have one in the environment for the controller. We could very easily create another service principal and use that as an identity within that cluster. What do you think about that, Nader? Would that help?
Yeah, that was the part that was getting stuck. Is like me and like before the actual test, creating that identity, like the actual identity in Azure, so that I can create the Azure identity resource for it.
I think that's actually better because having the main Frau like service principal have permission to do that gives it, I think, a bit too much scope because it needs owner on their subscription, which is, I don't know if that would get approved. So yeah.
Okay, then I just don't know who can create that identity. Where would it live? Like it needs to live somewhere, like in some Azure subscription. I don't know what.
I can help with that. I have access to the subscription, so I can help you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay. When running a workload, oh, that one we also have been bumping. James, I don't know if you can hear me. You probably can't see my screen, but I don't know if you remember there's this issue where like a single control plane node takes like, it takes 15 minutes for the load balancer to provision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we had found that it was related to like the cache that was used in controller manager.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if there are any like next steps from a CAPZ side on that issue, or is it all like, is it something that needs to be fixed in controller manager?
Yeah, it's going to be totally in the controller manager. I think it's a pretty low priority because the likelihood of running a single control plane node is pretty small, and that's the kind of use case that happens when you have multiple control plane nodes. Once you have that, it triggers the leader election, which causes the cache to refresh regularly. So that's why we're not seeing it like in the end-to-end test, I think. I just,
and it's
a
cache thing, right? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yep, yeah, it's a cache thing.
So if technically it could be faster, it's just it can take up to 15 minutes depending on how lucky you are, since last time the cache refreshed.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, that was in Azure Cloud Provider?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and we do run a single control plane test in end-to-end, so I'm surprised we haven't seen that. And we have a load balancer test, right? Or maybe we're not running the load balancer test on the single control plane, that's why. Okay, I'll check. For now, I will move that to next if there are no objections.
Yeah, at the time there was no single control plane test, so if something changed there, I think it would only happen if you had a load balance. If you ran the load balancer test against it.
The KCP upgrade job is flaky. Nader, should we keep that in here?
Yeah, hopefully, like when we test with the new CAPI release, things should be better.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, machine pool Kubernetes version upgrades. David, what do you think? Next
Today.
or 12?
Today. Like
I'm tempted to
yesterday.
say 0411, but is that too ambitious? Or should we do next?
Pessimism versus optimism. I think it's most likely to land in 411. I just based on how long it's taken to solve it thus far.
Oh, you're saying versus 0410?
No, just next. Or
yeah.
411 or next. It's super important that the fix is probably going to be in CAPI though.
Yeah, that's the problem though, because then if it's a big fix, it might be bumped to 04. Or sorry, yeah, to B1 off of 4.
Yeah.
Should we also create a milestone for like 05 so that we can start like the things that we know will wait?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll do that right now. No due dates. Okay. Let's say 0411 for now. Okay. Client certificate authentication. I think that was bundled with the multi-tenancy one. That's why it was moved in here. Is that, Nader, is that getting solved by your PR, or is that a follow-up item that needs to be addressed?
I think it's a follow-up item. It needs to be addressed, but it has to come after the other one.
Is that a next follow-up item, or is it like a close, not too hard?
I think it's a pretty small one. Once we have the other one in, it's like a super small one. Correct me if I'm wrong, David. This is just squaring.
This shouldn't be any change. So the identity, the identity structure has this that as part. Yeah, exactly. So if the secret is a reference to either that string, or I mean, really, the certificate's just a string too. So it's just fill that secret reference with the certificate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so just like maybe put an example or document it somehow.
Yeah,
I can include that in the same PR. Okay, I'll do it with the other one.
Okay, great. And then our experimental retry. Do we think we want to
merge
that before the release or after?
I think it seems to be working so far. I ran the test like 4 or 5 times. We can, I think, keep it for like the whole next week when we're testing the new RC and see what happens, but it seems to be fine. So I would say we can merge it in.
I'm leaning towards keeping, like, waiting until the next one, just because once we release the templates and it's hard to go back. So that way it gives us more time to get some mileage, because these flex aren't very common. They just happen sometimes. It's possible we got lucky so far. Okay. All right, so for now we just have the flaky jobs in the current one, which is great. We can focus on that. And I think there are a lot of issues that are not,
no milestone.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna put everything in next for now.
Okay.
And all right. Is there anything that anyone wants to see happen in the next milestone? Or not next, but like the 0411 milestone?
This
Any
first one I
requests?
created the bug. I think it's pretty small. Like, I was going to work on it today or something. So it's just like looks really bad if you open it. You'll like I was
Okay.
doing like a describe on a cluster, Azure cluster, and it had like a whole stack trace in it. So I just want to fix it.
Oh, wow, weird. Okay. This is definitely next. Anything else? Any requests?
My main goal is to finish the multi-tenancy, so I want to like make sure that's done. So I'm not going to add anything else.
Okay. I wonder if we should move this one, David. The Azure machine pool nodes failed to join after 15 minutes before upgrade. Like I think this should be 0411, and then upgrade should be next, and then stretch for 0411. No.
They're the same. I mean,
Yeah. Well, once you get this fixed, you don't automatically have upgrade, right? You still need the surge and the draining.
oh, that's what you meant by upgrade. I was thinking,
Yeah.
Even when you upgrade after 15 minutes, it's still the bug. The after 15-minute bug is its own thing. The
Right.
feature for coordinate drain with
Yeah.
smooth upgrade or max surge or whatever we want to do. That's more of a feature, right?
Yes, and that's blocked by the bug.
Indeed.
Okay. Oh, I would like to add this one to 0410 actually, because the PR is ready. It's just waiting for an approve. And I want to get that merged. No, there are no objections. It's the conformance CI job.
Yeah, there was like a comment from Matt. That's the only thing I didn't approve it because there was some comments from Matt.
Okay, I think I addressed all the comments yesterday, but I'll check again to make sure.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't look it again.
I am doing that one right now. I don't know if it's going to make it for the current one. The PR is open, but it's not quite ready yet. So I'll put that in 0411.
So one of the things I'm working on, and I'm pretty close, is the Windows. I missed when you said this milestone is going to be completed, but hoping to have a PR open the next day or two.
Do you think it has a chance of getting completed by December 17th?
Yes.
Okay. Clicking
Yeah,
the
let's
button.
put it.
Yeah.
Let's put it in 011, so that'll be like
yeah, that will be I think the big flagship feature of 0411. Okay. Anything else that we want to prioritize for 0411? The terminal error reconcile or requeue, I think. Shyam, you were working on that? Or there's already a PR for it. Should we put that in the milestone?
Yeah, so I've opened a work in progress PR, so like I need a confirmation on the approach, and there is also like a dependency on CAPZ where they were discussing about adding conditions related to terminal errors.
Yeah. Awesome. So should we put that in 0411 for now then, since it might not merge in the next 2 days?
Yeah, sure.
Is that something CAPZ would add in like the port back to the 03, or is that something that would come in the main branch and then we wouldn't have it? You know?
I'm not sure entirely. There's still like a discussion going on. I don't know what the exact timeline is.
I think it would probably be a main branch. I don't think it's qualified as a bug fix. That would get backported.
Yeah, so in that case, we wouldn't be able to get that, right?
Well, it's not like the CAPZ thing is blocking us from moving forward with this PR. I think CAPZ is like in addition also have conditions, but I think the the PR is on its own valuable.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, should we document Azure identities as part of 0411 to go with the multi-tenancy work? How's
Yes.
that for a good one?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if you see anything that I should stop for.
There was secure sensitive bootstrap data. Is that something?
No, I think that's zero. Actually, I'm going to move that to 05 because that's waiting for the work or the
API.
proposal. Yeah. This one, I don't know when we're
Oh, is the one Ace is working on, is that like still there? Is it like the cluster describer?
Oh yeah, this one.
That's already has a PR, right? So I don't know, but I don't know what's going on with it.
Oh yeah, he didn't link the PR, but I'll move that in there anyways. And then this one. Yeah. I'm just checking the ones that have people assigned to them. What's that? Why are you assigned to this, David? Are you working on that?
No. Why am I assigned?
Oh, I think it was because multi-tenancy.
Yeah. So this should
yeah.
just work now, right?
No, because it's on the managed cluster, right? I assume the types we're only adding on the Azure cluster so far.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Good point.
What's the PR number for multi-tenancy?
GitHub search failing you.
Oh, I should search multi.
No,
yes, that one, right?
I think.
No,
that seems the proposal.
That must be
That's
the proposal.
like an old number,
Yeah.
It was 9 something.
This one, okay. Merges should be.
Is this 011? Sorry, 411?
For now, I'm just leaving it as next.
Okay.
All right. I think we're close to done. This is 05 for sure. Oops. This is also 05.
Yeah, wouldn't that be covered already? No,
AD support?
Yeah.
No, I think that's different. I think that's logging, authenticating in Kubernetes using your Azure creds.
Yeah, that is RBAC with AAD behind it. Yeah, AAD, all of the things. Like, how many different ways can, like, AAD cut through our different cluster configurations, right? That
Okay,
identity,
this is, sorry. Go ahead.
that identity documentation is going to be like enormous.
This is what the milestone looks like right now. I think there's probably room for a few more things, but we can keep it as this for now. And then as we, if anything comes up in the next week or two through Slack or anything like that, we can add it on. How do we feel about that?
There's like KubeCon and Thanksgivings and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah. Oh, yeah, there's KubeCon 2 next week. Yeah, so next few weeks are probably going to be slow. I think next office hours, which is supposed to be in 2 weeks, is on Thanksgiving Thursday, which is a US holiday. So we're probably going to skip that one, or I don't know if people who aren't in the US want to still do it. But David and I are going to be out for sure, and James as well, I think.
I'm going to be out too. I'm taking it off.
Okay, so let's just cancel that one. Do we want to meet again in a month, or do you want to do, should we do like a intermediate office hours? We can see if there's need for it in 3 weeks. Because next week is
once everybody's back from vacation, we can see on Slack if we want to have a quick meeting.
Okay, sounds good. We can just do a check-in. All right. Anything else anyone wanted to cover? Any questions? Okay. If not, thanks for your patience as we went through this milestone planning, and we'll see you all next month. Have a good KubeCon if you're attending KubeCon, and enjoy the US Thanksgiving holidays if you're in the US.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.